told me about this song, and I've gone back to the original version. It was sung by Pete Seeger. It was written in the 1868 during the Civil War by, well, they say anonymous. They have a name of a woman, but it was put to music by someone else. And then Pete Seeger sang it in the 60s, so you might recognize it. This is the first time I've sung it in public.
Ooh,
Let's see.
virgin performance.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I catch the sweet and far off hymn that hails the new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It finds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though my joys and comfort die? The Lord my Savior liveth. What though the darkness gather round? The songs in night He giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while fountains ever springing. Since Christ is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the clouds grow thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths, since first I learned to love it. The peace of Christ makes fresh my heart, a fountain ever springing. All things are mine, since I am God's. How can I keep from singing?
Ooh, beautiful.
Isn't that pretty?
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
That was absolutely wonderful, Carol. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And we got to hear it for the first time publicly. That's kind of
Yeah.
special. Well, I'm blessed to be able to be with you the first Sunday of every month. And Diana has very graciously booked me, scheduled me to be with you all year on the first Sunday of every month. Which made me think that with there's being 12 months, and Charles Fillmore had 12 powers of man, what better theme to have throughout the year than to do a new power each month? I thought it'd be a wonderful segue. Each month you know what we're going to be talking about it. And I thought, well, will that be relevant to what's going on in our lives at the time? Well, I will tell you, you've heard me say before, I'm a firm believer in divine synchronicity. And believe me, today it's going to work. Now, I've provided for you, and this is in color because Charles Fillmore attributed colors and with the powers. But I don't know how many people know the story behind the 12 powers, what came about, how Charles Fillmore decided to develop the 12 powers. And I was very curious because I've read the 12 powers of man. If any of you have ever read Charles Fillmore, you know it's not an easy read. You have to read it a few times, like pretty much any of the late 1800 transcendentalists and New Thought teachers. Well, Charles Fillmore did not ever want to establish this tidy spiritual system. He never wanted this to become a church. He never wanted to establish doctrine. What he wanted was a way of life. What he wanted was something that would grow organically through our human experiences. And that's exactly what happened. And in the late 1800s, Charles Fillmore experienced an extraordinary physical healing as he embodied prayer. And through that, he began his studies. And he started studying the Bible, not as the inerrant word of God, word for word, but metaphysically. And he studied a lot of the teachings of Jesus, and he studied about the 12 disciples. And what he decided was he was going to take those 12 disciples, and rather than make them the historic figures they were, he made them symbolic representations of spiritual faculties, spiritual traits. Not traits that we acquire, but traits that we are born into, that are inherently within us. And those, I'm going to read, well, you have them right here. The 12 traits that he had are faith, love, strength, wisdom, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, release, and life. And sometimes the release is also called elimination. And what he did was he wanted these 12 powers to develop into a way of life, a living framework for spiritual growth. Because he didn't believe that human beings are broken or weak. Charles Fillmore believed and taught that we are spiritually endowed. We are spiritually endowed. I'm going to just take this off for a second. So the first of the powers, as you can see on this list, is faith. And faith is what we start with. And there's a reason. There was a logic to the order in which he assigned these 12 powers. They're each assigned a disciple, which I apologize, I didn't put that on there, because there was no rhyme or reason to me on why that specific disciple got that specific faculty or trait. Faith is the first one that we deal with. And faith is a spiritual perception. It's a core idea. It's an inner knowing within us that sees beyond appearances and trusts the presence of God within us. Faith is not something we possess, it's something we embody. We don't possess faith, we embody it. Having faith asks, will this work out? That's when we have faith. Well, will this work out? Being faith says, I trust the unfolding even now. I entrust the unfolding even now. Now that's very relevant today, isn't it? With what's happened over this past weekend, I don't know about you, but I trust the unfolding even now means something very deep to me. Very, very deep. So why did Ernest Holmes, here goes my spiritual living background, doesn't it? Why did Charles Fillmore come up with faith as the first tenet? Well, it's because faith is the gateway to everything else. Without faith, you have no other faculties that exist. Faith comes first. Faith activates love. Faith activates wisdom. Faith activates strength. Faith activates imagination. Faith is what says you may proceed. Faith's the gatekeeper. Unless it opens, you cannot proceed with the rest. So you have to have that faith. So what is faith? Now, that's kind of an intangible thing when you think about it. What is faith? Well, I can tell you what faith is not. Faith is not a blind belief in something. Faith is not blind belief. And I think we can all give ourselves examples of what we have as blind beliefs. I believe the sun's going to come up in the morning. Well, it may come up somewhere. It may not come up here if it's overcast, but I have this blind belief. I have faith the sun will come up. Mm-hmm. Faith is not wishful thinking. We often confuse faith with hope and wish. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith is not doctrine. Someone may follow the doctrine of some religious tenet or organization, follow that doctrine. It doesn't mean they have faith in it. It doesn't mean that that is the faith that goes with it. What faith is an inner knowing. Faith is that inner knowing. Faith is trust in divine order. You know, I said that I trust the unfolding even now. It's that divine order. I trust that. Faith is calm confidence in unseen good. With everything that goes on around us and all the chaos, that's so important for us to understand that faith is that calm confidence in the unseen good. We see everything that goes on around us, and it's chaos, and we have a tendency to buy into that for a second, and then it's like, wait a minute, God is in the chaos. There is unseen good, and we have to have faith in that. We have to have faith in that. Faith is not believing harder. Faith is seeing deeper. So faith is not, I'm gonna have faith. I'm gonna believe it harder and harder. No. Faith is just allowing and seeing deeper, allowing the inner self, the inner consciousness to know and to feel and to believe. So faith is a faculty. Faith as a trait. Faith is an innate spiritual power. It's a power. And the more we use faith, the more we step into faith, the more we allow ourselves to be faith, the stronger it gets. And it's not going to say that we don't have times when we're not as steeped in faith. We are human beings having that experience. So it's very easy to kind of backslide a little bit. Faith grows. Faith grows with prayer and meditation and affirmations. Now, I've had people tell me, Kathy, I don't really know what you want me to do when you say pray daily, pray unceasingly, as St. Paul said. I don't get that. Well, it depends on how you define prayer. There is no wrong prayer. Now, there might be better ways of praying with supplication. Dear God, please, if you just let me do this. That's not going to get you very much. What it's going to get you is more of the, dear God, would you please? As opposed to, dear God, I know that this is mine now. But you can pray in so many different ways. Praying is a very personal thing to me. Somebody said, well, can you teach me how to pray? I can talk to you about what prayer is, and I can let you establish and develop what works for you. But for me to teach you how to pray, it kind of makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up a little bit as I think about, oh my gosh, sitting in a Catholic school going, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed are those, blessed, and Jesus. I remember every time we said the name Jesus in a prayer, we had to bow our head. And we used to joke about it, going, okay, ready? Jesus. Because it was just the things that we did. It was a rote thing. That was teaching us to pray. And I always thought, wow, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Because nobody ever bothered to explain to us what those words meant that we were saying. That's like in our New Braunfels church, we do the Aramaic translation of the Lord's Prayer, which I love because it's written in words that make sense. And you look at it and go, okay, I like this. Father, Mother, Birther, Breath of all. I don't know if you guys have that. I'll bring it to you next time. It's a beautiful translation. And it was translated from Aramaic, which was the language that Jesus spoke. So praying is a very personal thing. But when you pray, you just have to steep yourself in faith. Go into that inner strength, go into that innate spiritual power, and allow that prayer, however it works for you. There's no right or wrong prayer. However it works for you. Have that dialogue. Have that dialogue with the divine. Meditation. I think I've said this to you before. I'm not a real good meditator. I can't just sit and go into a lotus position. God, I wish I could do lotus again. It was many years ago. But I can't sit in a lotus position and go into a Zen state. It's just not in my nature. But I can sit in the yard pulling weeds and meditate. I can be sitting in traffic, not worry about it, and meditate. I can be sitting on the back porch on a nice spring morning, having a cup of coffee and just close my eyes and realize I'm actually meditating. So meditation is also a very personal thing. It's what works for you. And meditation can be a minute long, 2 minutes long, 10 minutes long. I know people that can meditate for hours. It's just not me. I can't sit still long enough to do that. It's just not my nature. And then affirmations. I have somebody that I know from my old church that said, oh my God, I hate affirmations. And this was one of my practitioner of prayer buddies. So every Sunday we had to write affirmations for that Sunday if we were the practitioner on duty. And she would, God, I hate writing affirmations. So what is it about it you don't like? Well, it's just a bunch of words. I said, well, then make up something that's not just a bunch of words. Well, like what? Well, something that's positive that affirms for you. Oh, well, I thought I had to write it for the congregation. Well, aren't you part of the congregation? Write it for what works for you. It's not just a bunch of words. It can be something very, very simple. I've told you about a friend of mine who, whenever, caca occurred, his affirmation was, God is, this isn't. And so it is. That was it. That was his prayer. That was his affirmation. Just bam, that fast. God is, this isn't, and so it is. And took a slow, deep breath and went on his way. This is also the same guy that dressed like the Pope and did some weird things during the year. But he was a great practitioner. So affirmations don't have to be these frilly, formal, flowing words. They can be very, very simple things. God is, I am. I think it, I pray it, I live it. That's a very simple, you can read it and remember it so easily. God is, I am. I think it, I pray it, I live it. Affirmations are also things that can be very, very simple. Just steep them in faith. Steep them in that inner knowledge. Go deep when you think about them. And just make sure that an affirmation is what it says. It affirms. It's positive. It affirms. That's why we do affirmative prayer. And there's not a New Thought teaching that doesn't do affirmative prayer. In the positive. Not begging, not beseeching, not supplicating, not bringing up the negative. Bring up the positive, always. Now, one of the things that Charles Fillmore did was he assigned a seat in the body for each of the 12 faculties. And the seat of faith is in the pineal gland. Now, your pineal gland sits almost right smack in the middle of your head. It's between the ventricles and the brain. Metaphysically, it's called the eye of the soul, or the seat of the soul, the eye of spirit. And he put it there because it's in a very dynamic area of the brain that works to keep all the functions going. Faith, the gatekeeper. Pineal gland, keep things running. It's for spiritual insight. And that is something that sees beyond outer conditions. And that's what we need to do. We need to see beyond outer conditions. We need to interpret what's going on around us, interpret life through spirit, not fear. Now that's a real easy thing for me to say. It's not always the easiest thing to do. I was listening to the news yesterday and I went straight into fear. I'll be the first to tell you. I went straight into fear. Oh my God. And then, thankfully, as I'm preparing this talk for you today, it was like, okay, Kathy, practice what you preach. Practice what you preach. Interpret it through faith, not through fear. Because God is in everything. God is in every single circumstance that we know. So we have to make sure that we trust the unfolding. We allow ourselves to be calm and see the unseen good. And we have to make sure that we go through spirit, not faith. Not fear. So now, I mentioned we can sometimes confuse faith and hope. Well, here's the thing. Hope says, I wish. That's hope. I wish I could win the lottery. I wish I was 20 pounds lighter. I wish I was 5'6". We hope all these things, right? Faith says, I trust. Hope says, I wish. Faith says, I trust. Hope looks ahead, and faith stands very firmly in the present. So looking to the future is a great thing to do with imagination, and we'll get into that later in the year. Looking towards the future is fun, but we always have to remember where we are, and that's in the present right now. Now, at the beginning of every year, we have this tradition of a burning bowl, and of course, we have some constraints here, being in a hotel conference room, and not being allowed to have live flames. And so, one of the things that the burning bowl does is it allows us to release the thoughts that no longer serve us, things that just don't work for us anymore. You know, when I was going through my ministerial studies, we had practice counseling sessions, and we had a visiting minister that came in, and he was just amazing. And he sat there, and he was doing a counseling session, mock sessions with one of the students, and the student was saying how she always worried about this, and she was always concerned about that, and he sat there with a big smile on his face, and he goes, "How's that working for you?" He almost had a Jack Nicholson approach to it. "How's that working for you?" So what I want you to do is I've given you each a piece of paper here, and we all have some sort of writing implements. And I want you to think about those things that you'd like to release this year. It can be one thing, it can be many. But I want to read this to you. This was a writing by a minister by the name of Sapphire Rose. I came upon this probably 15, 20 years ago, and I have kept a copy of it forever. I have given you each a copy of this on the table. It's called She Let Go. She let go without a thought or a word. She let go. She let go of the fear. She let go of the judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her. She let go of all the right reasons. Wholly and completely without hesitation or worry, she just let go. She went within. She didn't ask anyone for advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She just let go. She let go of all the memories that held her back. She let go of all the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of all the planning and all the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write the projected date in her daytimer. She made no public announcement and put no ad in the paper. She didn't check the weather report or read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't utter one word. She just let go. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing, like a leaf falling from a tree. She just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't bad and it wasn't good. It was what it was. It is just that. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forevermore. So now I invite you to write down what it is that you want to just let go of. Okay, I believe that's everyone. Alrighty. So we faithfully release all these things that no longer serve us. And we do so in faith. You know, most of us here are in what I would consider our later seasons, meaning we're a little more mature. And as we look at faith now versus, let's say, 20 or 30 years ago, I think we do so a little quieter, a little deeper, and maybe a little steadier than 30 years ago. Even if we weren't in this teaching 30 years ago or 20 years ago, I think we approach things a little bit differently now. And I believe that we do that because what we manifest now is rooted in the experience that we have attained over the years. And due to that experience, we can be a little quieter and a little deeper and a little steadier. We're no longer in that portion of our lives where we're trying to prove things, right? Remember when we were young, we had to prove things to ourselves, we had to prove things to our family and to others around us. I think now we're more in that trusting phase. I don't have to prove it, we can trust it. Now that's not to say that we're not still striving for things. You know, they say that now, faith for us now is more of a resting position as opposed to striving, but it doesn't mean that we're not striving for things. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to continue to prove things to ourselves or to others, but that's not our driving force now. Now remember that faith activates all the other powers. Faith activates love without fear. We can love without fear. With love comes loss, and we always fear loss, but as we get a little bit older, we can face, with faith, love without loss. Faith strengthens without force. We can have a faithful, quiet strength within us that doesn't have to be assertive or aggressive. Faith is wisdom without ego. I don't know, I look around the room, how many of you think you have a big ego? I mean, I think we've learned to let go of that ego as we've gotten a little bit older, as we've wizened, and we've had more human experiences. You know, ego is like an acronym. It's often called edging greatness out. I like to say it's edging God out. Ego is no longer as important, and faith allows us to have wisdom without the ego involved. Faith also allows us to have imagination without anxiety. When you're younger and you imagine things, I could imagine myself doing this or imagine myself doing that. But there's some anxiety. Well, I'm going to try it, but what if I fail? And now I'm at the point where, with faith, I can imagine anything or try anything. And if I fail, it just showed me a different way to do it. How do we strengthen our faith? Well, obviously, we meet together to strengthen our faith and help one another with that. Strengthening faith is also remembering past demonstrations of faith. Maybe, can you think back of things that where you've actually used your faith and demonstrated something? When we moved into our house in California, one of our houses, we had a stray cat that moved in the garage. And I had an allergy to cats, and I told Connie and Megan, dear God, do not let that cat in the house. And so little Johnny lived in the garage. And I was really steeped in my studies, becoming a practitioner of prayer and a minister. And all I kept thinking was, everything around me, all creation is made up of the essence and substance of God. We are all made up of the same God stuff. So I kept thinking, well, if I'm made up of God stuff, so's that cat. Now, I had a medical background, so I wasn't going to approach this very capriciously, but I looked at it and thought, okay, I'm going to try a scientific and experiment steeped in faith. I'm going to go up to that cat every morning and then rub my hand all over him, put my hand at my side, and then 10 minutes later I'm going to take a shower. Did that for a month. Second month, got a little closer. Waited 10 minutes, took a shower. I did this, and it took about 14 months. In the 14th month, I was carrying him around with this fur in my face, no reaction, and doing fine.
Wow.
Now, it was a scientific experiment, because basically all I did was desensitize myself to that to which I am allergic. I did it just like an allergist would do by giving myself increasing doses of that which I'm allergic to. So there was a scientific basis in it, but I was doing this based in faith. Because my faith told me, I am made up of the same stuff, the same God stuff this cat's made up. So whenever I start to feel a little shaky with faith, I remember Johnny. When I had my ministerial boards, they said, can you give us a time when you used faith as a demonstration? I went, you want to hear about Johnny. I sat there in front of 10 ministers talking about a cat. But it's a good example. Remember the times in your life when you've had demonstrations. When you have, with your faith, been able to see something come to fruition through your deep faith, because it does make a difference. Silent prayer. We talked about prayer just a moment ago. Silent prayer is great. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. Sometimes you just sit in the silence and listen. Just sit and listen. And then the one thing, and this is sometimes so overused, but it's so poignant, is gratitude. You strengthen your faith with your gratitude. Your gratitude for what already is, what you already have, what already works. And not thanks. but true gratitude. Because there is a difference between being thankful and being steeped in gratitude. Steep yourself in gratitude for what you have. Now, rather than doing a meditation right now, I would like us to repeat these 3 lines with me, if you will. And I just want us to be very quiet for a moment. And they're very, very easy to do. In faith, repeat with me. I am not alone. I am not alone. I am guided. I am guided. I am held. I am held. That defines faith right there. I'm not alone. I am guided. I am held. That is in itself a prayer. That is in itself a meditation. Those are affirmations. I am not alone. I am guided. I am held. I am not alone. I am guided. I am held. And the last affirmation that I have that I want to share with you today is, I trust the wisdom of God moving through my life now. I trust the wisdom of God moving through my life now. And that's how we take a slow, deep breath in faith.